Welcome, 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 welcome. I'm super excited to see you here. This is Kala Cohort 2, our leadership forum, our second leadership forum. No, Cohort 4. Cohort 4, second leadership forum. Super excited. I need to see some excitement in the chat room. We are live, so lots of people viewing in, but I'm especially, in a very special way, welcoming all those who are part of Kala Cohort 4. Of course, here we have delegates, we have our different speakers. We are super excited. I hope you can tell there's a bit of excitement happening here. Show me how excited you are on a scale of 1 to 10. Give me a number. Where's your energy level? Put it in the chat. Let me see. Let me see. Let me see. Oh, fantastic. Yeah, give me a number. I should just let you know we are not accepting anything below 3 is not acceptable for these 2 days. But give me a number. Give me a number. Okay, if you're feeling at a 3, surely by the time we finish even this session, we should be like at a 5. But give me a number. Give me a number. Are the numbers coming in? Let's see. On a scale of 1 to 10 energy levels. Let me see. Let me see. Okay. Yes, keep typing that number in. Give me the number. Give me the number. Let me see what we have. Let me see what we have. Okay, fantastic. Okay, so there's 9s, there's 10s. If you want to say 11, you're more than welcome to do that. We're super excited. So there's 7s, there's 6s. Okay, so I just want to let you know whichever number we are starting from, by the end of this session, it should be 2 numbers up. So if you're at a 7, you're going to be at a 9. If you're at a 9, you're going to be at 11, way off the scale. But I want to say welcome, welcome, welcome. So here's what I want you to do in the chat as we get started. My name is Sam Chimera. I will be your facilitator and moderator for these couple of sessions that we're going to be having together. But in the chat for now, what I want you to do is to introduce yourself. So please go ahead and type your name. Okay, so type your name, your designation in terms of what organization you're with. We want to celebrate you and also your country. So please go ahead and do that. I'll give you a minute to do that, and then we'll be taking liftoff all the way. Otherwise, I'm super excited, and I'm so glad to see all the numbers that are going up in the chat. And for now, again, I just want you to introduce yourself in the chat area, while we also give others a chance to dial in and join us. We'll be introducing you to the team of moderators and facilitators who are here, and then we'll just take liftoff. So you have about a minute to go ahead and type your name in the chat, your name, your designation, and the country that you're in. There you go. And I'll be saying a quick hello to those of you who go to the chat and type in your name and your designation and your country. Let's see how many countries we're having here. Okay, let's see. I'm just going to shout out to those who came through. So we have Nairobi. Okay. Nairobi, Kenya. I'm assuming Nairobi is not your name. Okay. I want to know names. I want to know your name. But I have heard of people who are called Nairobi. I'm from Uganda, Kampala, Uganda. I've not met anyone called Kampala. But yes, we have names now. We have names. Good, good. So we have Emily. Emily, good to see you from Team Kenya. Claudine from Rwanda. She's part of Kala Cohort 4. Let's see, Patricia, based in Tanzania. Kala Coach from Anprof. Good to see you here, Patricia. Let's see, Emmanuel from Nigeria. Fantastic. Enoch from Team Ethiopia. Clarice from Rwanda. Oh, fantastic. This is really good. I'll give you just a few more seconds as others dial in. Please, again, type your name, your designation, and also your location, right? Let's see, Maximus from Nigeria. Fantastic. Good to see you, sir. You're going to be hearing the voices of experts in their field. They're going to be hearing the voices of our different speakers. We are all super excited because this marks significant progress in this whole Kala cohort journey that we've been on, right? Okay, so I'll give you 10 other seconds. Let me see. Fantastic. Chikondi, good to see you, country lead and food systems consultant, all the way from Malawi. Very good. Let's see, Faustina, the district director of agriculture, Ghana. Very good to see you here. Talefe, Team Ethiopia, cohort 4. Fantastic. Okay, so please keep that coming through. Margaret, all the way in Uganda. Okay, very good. Keep that coming through, and I'll just move us forward. So mine is to say a big, big welcome. And this is a big welcome to all of you distinguished guests. We have, ladies and gentlemen, we are here and we are welcoming you to Cohort 4's second Kala Leadership Forum. My name is Sam Chimera and I work with African Management Institute, and I will be moderating this session. So we're excited to have you join for this particular leadership forum. And as some of you may know, Kala Leadership Forum is a core part of Kala's Advanced Leadership Program. It's a whole 6 months leadership journey, and we're super excited. It's over the next 2 days, it's going to be a structured 2 half-day interactive session, which brings the entire cohort together to do a couple of things. One, we want to encourage peer learning, exchange, and networking. We want to encourage that. Number 2, we're going to be spotlighting distinguished voices and champions in their field, doing work in the environmental space, in the agroecology space, the digitization space. We have regional leaders, thematic experts that we want to make sure that they get the chance to dialogue with the Kala Cohort 4. And 3, we want to work towards communities of practice to ensure environmentally sustainable agriculture is happening. All right. So that's what we're going to be doing. And just to get us started, let me just find out who managed to join. So you've typed it in the chat. Let's see. A few more. Margaret from Uganda. I'm just going to read out a few more if you've typed that in. Amabel, Kala, Cohort 4, Ghana, Omari. So I'm going to read 3 more. So if you want your name to be read, you put it in there quickly. Bayo from Nigeria. Okay, fantastic. So keep that coming. I'm just going to take the next maybe 2 or so minutes to walk you through what the forum structure is going to look like. So this is the second leadership forum that we are convening for this year's Kala cohort, which is 4. And we're going to be running for 2 days. So today and tomorrow. That's today, 2nd July, and tomorrow, 3rd July. We're excited to bring the Kala community together around the theme, the really strong theme, really relevant theme, harnessing digital innovations for scaling youth employment opportunities in agriculture. The objective of this forum is that participants will emerge towards getting an action plan, so an actionable plan for promoting the transformation towards sustainable agriculture in their organization. And because you come from different countries, we want to make sure that we're prioritizing the flagship programs of those countries. As we go, you're going to get the opportunity to reflect on how to apply your learnings from the course. We'll provide you information and engage you in discussions that will hopefully deepen your understanding of the agricultural landscape and the sustainability space that we're trying to move towards. And finally, we want to connect you to communities of practice. I already mentioned that. If you're a bit more structured like me and you want to get, okay, what's the 1, 2, 3 of the forum agenda? Let me walk you through it. So today, session 1 is going to look like just having some welcome remarks. We'll get into a keynote address, which will be about 40 minutes. And then we'll have an hour panel on digital agriculture and the future of work in Africa's food systems. Okay. Then after the break, we'll get into youth and digital agriculture economy, another panel that we'll be delving into. We'll establish and consider barriers to youth employment in our session 4 in digital agriculture. And we'll have also digital innovation, a pitch showcase, which will be about 30 minutes later on. Tomorrow morning tomorrow morning or afternoon if it is for you. We'll be recapping day 1 and then jumping into a whole conversation about how do we invest in youth-led digital agriculture enterprises. The other sessions will be around building a digital savvy agriculture workspace and workforce, a virtual project showcase. We'll get to see some of the projects that have been as part of the ALPs. And then we'll get a call to action establishing the role of leadership in advancing digital agriculture. And after that, the final session will be essentially learning and clarifying next steps. All right. So we're super excited to have that. That will be the structure. And you already have all this information on the platform that we're all using together. So if you need any clarity, just click on there and I hope that you're available for all the sessions. All right. So now that we're coming in, I just want to take 1 or 2 minutes to establish some etiquette. And in the chat, what I'd like you to do is type one thing for the time that we're going to be together. okay, in order to achieve all the goals that we're setting out for. Type in the chat one thing that you'd like for us not to do. Like, if we do this, it will mess with the energy that we're having. It will affect our ability to learn, affect our ability to network, affect our ability to get the most out of what we're doing here. So put that in the chat. So let's start with the negative. Tell me things you do not want to experience while you're here. And then after that, I'll give you a chance to share what's one thing you want us to all do in order to lean in and learn and experience this leadership forum and get the most out of it. So you have 1 minute for the things you do not want me to experience or do not want yourself to experience, and then we'll move to the positive. So let's see. Put that in the chat. And then in a short while, once we agree, just establishing some courtesy and etiquette for our space. And then after that, we'll get into our welcome remarks. All right, going once, put that in. I'll give you a minute to type that in. So right now, I want you to establish, I would not want to experience this. I mean, maybe you've experienced a different conference or something like that, and you felt like, I don't want that to happen again in my experience. Okay, good. I see you. One of the submissions is we should not lag behind on the agenda. Another person says we do not want to experience bad network. Someone says not changing the order of the event. So the one that we've communicated should be the one we stick with. Okay, fair enough. Within certain limits. Hope you're not running any emergencies. And maybe I'll take one more. I know there's a couple coming through. No background noise. Yes, so if you must use your mic, make sure it is quiet in the room where you are. Okay, fantastic. So let's imagine we've cleared all the things we don't want to experience. Now, I'm excited here. Give me the ones you'd like to experience. What do you want us to do as a community here, as everyone in this space, that will make sure that will move us from an average leadership forum to a great forum, where at the end of tomorrow, you're going to say, wow, I want to do that again. Type it in the chat, and then shortly after that, we'll get into our welcome remarks. Just looking out at the chat to see, yeah, something that went well, something that you've experienced before that you want us to do again. Let's see where we are. Type that in the chat. So oh wow, thank you. You're very generous. Someone says, I pray for a smooth session with no internet connectivity disruption. Okay, I'll take maybe, yes, sharing the recordings and presentations after the sessions adds to the wealth of the sessions. Clarity on presentations, thank you, we'll do that. Sharing the contacts for the great leaders for continued networking, yes. All right, I'll take maybe two more, I'll read two more, and then we'll jump into our, yes, so exciting interactions. Yes, we have a plan to give you exciting interactions, meaningful, insightful interactions. And lastly, I'll read engaging and insightful sessions. All right, well, we're agreed. It's 1/4 past the top of the hour, and it gives me great pleasure to turn our notch into a higher gear and say right now, we're in agreement on guidelines, and I'd like to take the next 15 minutes to introduce some key people to help us officially open this leadership forum. Are you ready? I hope you are. First, to officially open today's leadership forum, we are honored to welcome Jonathan Said. He's the Vice President at AGRA's Center for Technical Expertise. Jonathan leads AGRA's work across key areas including policy, markets, finance, climate, digitalization, and inclusion. He brings a wealth of experience from roles from Africa, the Caribbean, and the UK, including his leadership at the Tony Blair Institute, where he helped shape industrialization and agriculture strategies in over 16 African countries. Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Vice President at AGRA's Center for Technical Expertise, Jonathan Said. Welcome, Jonathan.
Thank you very much, Sam. Thanks so much for having me, and welcome to all the participants in cohort 4. It's really good to have you. Thanks for your interest in this program and for being such an active part of this program. A few months ago, we had the graduation for your previous cohort 3, and it was a really amazing event over a number of days, and it was really good to see the amazing work that was done by that cohort. And I'm very sure that this cohort will be doing even better than that. So I'm very much looking forward to the to your graduation through this program. I know it can be difficult and tough, but just want to encourage you to keep at it, to keep making that investment of time and effort. And the more you give in, the much more you'll get in return, not just in this period, but in your career going forward. I just want to just read a quote if I can. So if you can listen to this quote, and then I will say something about it afterwards. So this is a quote from just a colleague of mine that I know on LinkedIn that posted something yesterday, which I think is very telling. So the quote is, he was actually talking about the conference in Seville. There was a financing for development conference in Seville by the United Nations that just ended. And over there you get a lot of the big buzzwords, and you get, we need to integrate more, we need to coordinate, we need to have better frameworks. In that case, they were talking, about how you improve access to finance for development. But what he was saying is that despite all of that, organizations then tend to typically, return to their business as usual, right? They come back to their committees and planning and ways of working as separate organizations and so on. And what he was basically saying is that that doesn't actually move the needle. That doesn't actually change things. So his quote was, I'm only reading a part of his quote. So he gave this example. So when he had worked a number of years ago on aquaculture transformation in East Africa, about it some 10 years ago, what made the difference wasn't better framework and calls for integration and so on. What made the difference was actually having people whose jobs was literally to navigate between the development finance people, the commercial investors, the government officials, and in that case, the commercial fish producers, and make deals and wider policy and technical support happen despite all the institutional friction. So for me, I just want to say that, and you guys all know this already, but the landscape is difficult out there. The system is difficult and it's hard. But when we talk about leadership, what we mean are these types of people that can be 2 steps ahead of the system. They recognize the challenges in the system, whether you're in government, whether you're in private sector, whether you're in civil society. You see that there are systemic challenges that are holding back progress, whether it's in your business, whether it's farmers you're trying to support, whether it's SMEs you're trying to support, whether it's a policy or program you're trying to implement. It can be hard. But the key thing and the key leaders are those people that are able to understand what can move the needle, basically, what can unlock things. And then they invest the time and relationships and effort to move that, right? So to go and have the necessary meetings to understand what, the Ministry of Agriculture or Ministry of Energy or Ministry of Trade needs to move on something, and then go to the other side and sort of see, okay, now, but by you saying this, but the ministry is saying this, the ministry wants this to happen and can't move until this happens. So what will it take for you to move on this? And say, oh, but we have this other challenge, so we may need a third party now to come in to de-risk or to help fix that challenge, which is holding progress in by other actors. So all this to say that the key difference to driving transformation in agriculture transformation, or to be successful in your business, or to be successful in government, it's not about recognition. It's not about position. It's not about power. It's not about how much money you have. Obviously, if you're in the private sector, that's still important. You need the money. But what matters is your ability to navigate a difficult system, to navigate between institutions, between personalities, between egos, and be bigger than them, not necessarily in a visible way, but be 2 steps ahead of them to say, okay, we actually you're thinking in this way, but to move the system, these are the bigger things we need to do, recognizing that those are the constraints and parameters. And that's basically what Kala is fundamentally about. It's about trying to support you, and you're already doing this, a lot of you, in your existing roles, but to give you the tools and apart from the tools and the learnings from a management perspective as well, but crucially also from a leadership perspective, the vision, the resilience, the mindset to go above and beyond, even when it becomes very tough, and it will always be very tough, as you guys already know. But that is the true leadership: is continuing to go in that direction, to chase your goals, to chase your targets, even when things are difficult, but to be able to understand what it will actually take to move the needle, and doing what's necessary. If you have to roll up your sleeves sometimes and get your hands dirty, and do some, and that's metaphorical. Okay, that could be it could be dirty working in the field, in soils, etc. It could also be getting stuck into a spreadsheet and sorting out, the numbers because they're just not adding up, and for some other reason, the people that are meant to do it are struggling it. Or it could be actually going and have that meeting that you were reluctant to do, or it could be talking to your colleague that you've had a fallout with, where you've disagreed and it's been very difficult, and you really have a strong disagreement. They might have offended you or upset you, but you recognize that for moving things forward, you actually need to bury the hatchet, reset the relationship, even though it's hard, and they may have done things that really upset you, but you have to sort of bury the hatchet and see the bigger picture. So things like that is the real leadership we're fundamentally talking about, and that's why we've invested so much in Color, which is a key program to help strengthen yourselves and many others like you. So that, because that's ultimately where CADEP 3.0, if I can go up to that level, is going to be implemented. It comes from people, and people are led by leaders, and this type of leaders. Not I don't mean ministers and presidents and business leaders, even though those have a key role to play. But we're talking about these types of leaders here that actually go the extra mile to move the needle on systemic change, and recognize what will take to strengthen markets, strengthen industrial value, strengthen value chains, strengthen government agencies that need to play a role, listening to the private sector, listening to farmers, listening to the youth much more, and to women much more, in addressing those binding constraints that are really holding back things. I'll stop there, but that's the key message I wanted to share. That's sort of the inspiration and the goal. So you can be these you are already these champions, but we want to support you to be even more of these champions, and to keep growing in your career, because we all grow in our career, we all learn. And the more experienced years we get under our belt, the more we learn and the more we become better leaders. And that's what this continent fundamentally needs. And you are that. So thank you so much for investing so much in this program, and we hope that this program meets your aspirations. We're doing our best for that to happen, and we thank AMI and the whole team, and Prof and the whole team for the investment and time they give to this, because it's very well curated and specifically designed to help you get to that next level. You're already at a high level. But the continent, not us, but the continent, your stakeholders, your peers, your employees, your people in your ministries, people in the farmers that you are working with, they all need that, because the challenges are big, right? Climate change, so on and so forth, so many challenges. So thank you so much, and we wish you a really good few days in this leadership conference, and for the rest of the program, and of course what happens after that, even though we'll be in touch when you graduate as well. Thank you very much, and back to you, Sam.
Thank you so much, Jonathan, for challenging us to keep growing, and also reminding us that we are the right people to be here. So thank you so much. All right, so I will now turn my attention to Andrea Warriner, who is part of AMI. We all know that Kala is a collaborative effort. So we have AGRA, we have AMI, we have ANPROF, and we'll be hearing from AMI. And Andrea is going to be speaking to that. So Andrea is the Managing Director, AMI Impact Solutions. That's African Management Institute. In her role, she leads the business unit delivering on all AMI's partnerships with development organizations, corporate foundations, private foundations, impact investors, and so many more. Previously, she was worked as the interim deputy director of the Scholes Center for Social Entrepreneurship at the University of Oxford, and she was managing a team that develops the talent and insight base required to drive positive social and environmental impact. So, ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Andrea. Andrea, over to you.
Thanks so much, Sam, and it's a pleasure to be here again with this group. I think each time we gather in these kind of full group forums, I'm reminded about the diversity of organizations that each of you represent and just the significant opportunity it presents for collective action to solve the critical challenges that we face. I think, as I did on the last leadership forum, I really want to start with a challenge to you. There are two options today in a virtual forum. One is to do emails and listen to it like a podcast. And the other is to apply the superpower of focus, which is so incredibly rare in the digital age that we're working in right now. We know it takes focus and discipline to engage virtually, but the opportunity by being fully present as a group of leaders of this caliber is really, really outsized. So we've been sure to put together a program that is relevant and that's engaging. And we ask you to take hold of this rare chance to pause and reflect and connect and step away from the day-to-day to sharpen the axe, as they say, before getting back to it tomorrow. So this year's theme, harnessing digital innovations for scaling youth employment opportunities in agriculture, couldn't be more timely. We know the facts around Africa and youth employment. It's the world's youngest population. We have millions unemployed or underemployed, and we know that agriculture holds the potential to address those challenges as well as to feed the continent. And digital innovation is a bridge between the employment challenges that we face as a continent and the potential of agriculture to solve those. So from digital marketplaces, precision farming, agri-fintech, AI-driven value chains, we know that technology will transform the sector. But what we also know is that innovation alone, innovation in a vacuum without execution is not enough. So without your deeply human leadership, digital innovation cannot fix the challenges we face. It's very easy to get excited about the latest app or prototype, but it sometimes feels maybe a little bit more boring to consider what are the human realities that have to be taken account for that digital innovation to really drive change. We need leaders who are able to harness digital tools strategically, ethically, inclusively, and ensure that young people are not left behind, which is one of the most critical challenges that we face, that digital innovation is not fully embraced on our continent, that we don't think strategically about what is required to leverage that in our sector. And in doing so, we leave employment opportunities on the table, essentially, for young people. So this is where you come in. So you know very well by now that CALA is not about sitting back and listening. It's about thoughtful consideration of where your own leadership practices need to be adjusted and built on and developed. And I really loved Jonathan's points about really the humility of leadership that's required to make real change, right? It's natural as humans to enjoy the accolade, to enjoy making the speech, but true leadership is in daily discipline of executing on the habits that align to the vision that you've set. It's the ability to look ahead and see what is required for your organization to be part of change, what is required for your organization to meet its goals, and then to identify the daily leadership habits that will get you there, and then to execute against that, and to bring others along with you. So this couple of days is an opportunity to step back, engage with new trends. So push yourself conceptually, push your mind to look at these innovations and see how could these be applied in my context? What are things that we need to explore? And then ask yourself those tough questions about what does that mean for me as a leader? What does that mean I have to change in my day-to-day if we're going to reach those kinds of aspirations? So you share an opportunity to engage with this learning over the next couple of days, and we hold in our hands the privilege of guiding you through this. But in turbulent times like these, we know that it's not only about being responsive to trends, it's being grounded in habits, the daily choices that build integrity, resilience, and real impact. And that's why Color exists. So this is not about abstract leadership theory. I always love to say that this is about a practical, immersive approach where you can challenge your mindsets, challenge your view of what's possible in your sector, but then stretch your leadership habits and most importantly, take action where it matters the most. So wish you all the best for the forum ahead. And let's make the most of this time together. Let's show up, let's engage fully, let's think boldly and set ourselves up for success in leading with integrity, clarity, and purpose that this moment in our sector really calls for. You're welcome.
Fantastic. Clarity. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Very good. Thank you so much. We need to lead and we need to step up to be the leaders that the moment requires. Thank you so much. All right. So without any further ado, so you've heard from Jonathan Said on behalf of AGRA. You've heard from Andrea Werner from AMI. Now I turn my attention finally for our welcome remarks. I will invite Olivia Abenyega, who is part of ANPROF, to give some welcoming remarks. And then after that, we'll get into our first keynote. Olivia brings over 2 decades of academic and applied leadership from Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, where she has served as associate professor, senior lecturer, and trainer researcher. Throughout her career, she has mentored early career researchers and led major studies across agriculture and natural resources. She blends academic rigor with a commitment to professional and leadership development, and it's a powerful combination for today's conversation on digital innovation and youth employment. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome yours truly, Olivia Abenyega for ANPROF. Olivia?
Thank you very much, Sam. That was very kind. Good morning, afternoon, evening, fellow delegates. On behalf of African Network of Professional Facilitators, I warmly welcome all of us to this so super important forum. Today, ANPROF is really excited to be part of these conversations. And as we've come together, we're going to explore digital innovations in agriculture. And it's very important that we're going to share insights on how these advancements can unlock opportunities for our young people in this critical sector. We know that ANPROF, that is the African Network of Professional Facilitators, we continue to partner with AGRA, Scala, and AMI, and we offer executive and team coaching to participants in the 16-month Advanced Leadership Program. And most of the time, the coaching component, it enhances the participants' ability to lead effectively, implement national agriculture strategies, and deliver on key food security and sustainability goals. And with all this, we are trying to strengthen AGRA's mission of transforming smallholder farming into very productive and sustainable businesses. And as facilitators, we support teams, groups, institutes to improve how they work together. And our role is always to provide guidance so that teams are more effective. And in line with this, and on behalf of ANPROF, I would like to share a few thoughts on the theme of the Leadership Forum. The first thing is that we all acknowledge that there's a big challenge of engaging our youth in agriculture. Most of the time, they overlook the potentials that agriculture can give to them. And we know that this trend can threaten food security and undermine the sector's long-term sustainability. We do know, Andrea mentioned some of the innovations. These can transform agriculture. I'd like to mention a few. The first one that is very key, dear to me, is digital extension services, where we can have mobile maps, apps that would provide young farmers with access to critical information on best practices, weather forecasts, and market trends. We can also look at precision agriculture, where we have drones and satellite imaging helping transform the sector. Digital financial inclusion is also very important, where we have mobile money and digital banking to provide the support that young farmers need. We shouldn't leave out e-markets. E-markets are also very important, where we have the online platforms that connect farmers to markets, and all this reduce their transaction cost. If we want to harness all these innovations, key thing is investing in digital literacy. We should equip our young people. They need the training, the skills, and it's also important that we develop very user-friendly digital platforms that are very accessible and tailored to meet the needs of our young farmers. We shouldn't forget collaborations, private sector, public sector, civil society, development organizations. We should all come together. We shouldn't forget policies. Without good enabling policies, we will not be able to implement these digital technologies. Since we've all come here to learn, and we are going to improve our own leadership skills and also to apply ourselves towards agricultural transformation, let's all work together. Let's create a future where agriculture is the sector of choice for the next generation of leaders. And AMPROF continues to support working together and empowering young people and providing opportunities to transform our sector. Together, we can build a brighter future for our youth, our communities, and our economies. Thank you, and I say a big warm welcome once again to all delegates. Thank you so much.
Very good. Thank you so much, Olivia, for such a warm welcome. And I love how you said we need to create a future where agriculture is the sector of choice, especially the youth. Thank you so much. All right. Now that we've heard from our representatives from AGRA, from AMI, and from ANPROF, I turn my attention to our first keynote address. And to help us to carry that, I would like to now pass this over to your second moderator, Brenda, who will take us through the next session. A quick introduction. Brenda is the Partnerships and Programs Lead for Food Systems at AMI. Brenda is a seasoned development specialist with over 17 years of experience in program and partnership management, focusing on market and capacity development within the agricultural sector. She's known for her expertise in leveraging technology to introduce innovative business concepts and promote sustainable development. Over to you, Brenda.
Thank you very much, Son, for that great introduction. And thank you to all the speakers before for the warm welcome and framing these conversations. Ladies and gentlemen, as we get into this very interesting space that will drive the systemic change that we seek for agriculture transformation in Africa, I would like to introduce to us some of our keynote conversations that are going to frame what we are going to be talking about for the next 2 days. We will have a keynote address, and then after that, we'll have a conversation that will help us so that we can decipher and be ready to make the best of the next 2 days. So to help us frame this and to give us the keynote, which will be on leadership in the digital age for harnessing digital innovation to transform youth and employment, I'd like to introduce John Kamara. John Kamara is a growth strategy consultant, former CEO of Cortex Africa, and non-executive director of Machine Intelligence Institute of Africa. He's currently the founder and CEO of Adanian Labs, and he has over 20 years of experience launching tech-driven solutions in new markets in Europe, South America, Caribbean, and Africa. He's a prolific tech and gaming entrepreneur using smart technology to drive exponential growth in data-driven organizations. John is also a visionary and thought leader with experience in new markets and verticals across multiple sectors, including agriculture. Ladies and gentlemen, what a guy. Who best to launch us into this program? Over to you, John, for your keynote address.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, and thank you very much, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and everyone here today. I will base my conversation around the opportunity that AI especially harnesses for Africa in the agriculture space. But before I speak about leadership innovation, let me talk about a couple of things that we know, but which is always good to bring to the table. over the past 10, 15 years, we have spent billions in agriculture, but yet we're still hungry. We've written policies, we've launched reports, we've flown in different consultants, but yes, we still haven't transformed the sector, and we are still struggling with unemployment in agriculture, and our soil is still unproductive at this digital age. So the question is, why does agriculture still sound like what I call punishment instead of possibility? And it's not because of lack of effort or lack of imagination in the digital age, but leadership and imagination backed by intelligent action is a critical part of what we need to do to transform this agricultural sector. Now, the other thing that we also, the disconnect from our glorious agricultural history to the present day, when there was a time, as you all know, when our grandparents, farming was an act of power. We grew cotton, we spun it in textiles, we explored groundnuts, tea, coffee, we built family legacies based on not just crops, but agriculture. But today, agriculture is treated like punishment, and we keep talking about agriculture changing the face of it. Agriculture policy is an afterthought. Technology makes it very rural, and you hear slogans like "we're helping farmers in Africa." Why are we helping farmers when agriculture should be a wealth creation opportunity? And if you think about that from that perspective, so we ask ourselves a question. As we keep calling agriculture the backbone of our society and our economy, but yet we treat it like a forgotten limb, and we build youth in agriculture programs that are community service sentences. We build platforms that are invisible and they're not very inspiring and we treat creativity in agriculture as an incident, not a strategy. And we also then want our youth to be part of agriculture, but we're selling the story, still using leaflets, while our youth live on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And we don't see the connection between digital age of agriculture and how we influence this next generation of young people who are clever, intelligent, and driven, like other sectors are doing, to become part of this socio-economic change. And we must treat it accordingly. We must treat land like not like a passive object, but like a living piece of data. And we must treat soil like a dynamic memory of intelligence nonstop, where we map every acre using digital infrastructure, where we tag trees and where we build yield economies and we unlock the GDP for agriculture, and we build predictive ecosystems that we literally reduce waste. And to really bring this into perspective, we have to think about how we sectionalize, the use of digital technology to create opportunities. And where we look at communities as micro soil labs or digital agri-hubs run by youths, powered by cloud, and feeding insight back to farmers in their languages in their local community. And feeding the youth in that community to become the sensors and the power generators inside those networks. So for me, digital agriculture is more than just tractors, which is great, but it also means building intelligent ecosystems where AI can predict soil fertility, where we can use drones and we can use natural language processing to create warning systems in real time, and basically use a lot of this to recreate job opportunities and create wealth creation. So imagine where we train youth to become climate risk officers, monitoring crop vulnerability and advising co-ops, where we create drone pilot programs for agriculture certified in our gig economy, where we create AI-enabled agri-influencers who drive regenerative agriculture on TikTok, and where we do youth-based co-ops that actually drive different areas of agriculture. So this is not necessarily a dream, but it's a job creation revolution rather than sitting in a silo where digital technology can influence that, and which basically means we can re-influence the ecosystem of agriculture by changing the structural approach to how we look at what is happening in this sector. And what does that mean? We must stop thinking about digital and physical as separate worlds in agriculture, because a greenhouse in Eldoret connected to a cloud engine is not just a farm, it's a living business intelligence node. And when we think about a farmer who's using USSD fertilizer pricing, he's not poor, but he lives in a digital economy driven by a visible insight. So leadership today is not being clinical or not being charismatic. It's about visionary enough to see digital youth-led agriculture networks being grounded in practicality of connected networks. And that is really where the core objective becomes a critical part of how we change agriculture. And one of the areas that we've done a lot of work is in disaster risk in agriculture and creating jobs for young people. And that allows us to build youth simulation centers across different communities and also use youth monitoring to drive outbreaks of agricultural products, as well as the SME landscape and the ecosystem. So the human infrastructure is a critical and important part of the physical infrastructure, because if we build these solutions, if we design agriculture, digital and physical, as a connected network, then we will have retrained our young people in those micro communities to run the agriculture data lab, to run the models for sorghum yield, to build new localized digital dashboards that drive local influence, and also to become champions in agriculture within our ecosystem. So this is not necessarily about trading, but it's about recreating a new type of job in hyper-localized ecosystems using the infrastructure that we currently have. And we must help monetize the presence of these youths, basically, which means that we can monetize the value of the data that we produce in agriculture with a new form of critical thinking using digital solutions, where we can train youth to collect hyperlocal data used by insurance firms and seed banks, and also the farmers, and get paying customers for that use to become the data collector. And this also means we can fuel a lot of micro solutions within that ecosystem. So we must build a data economy around agriculture, which is a living, live network, where we combine land, soil, digital products, and an ecosystem into a self-serving network of wealth creation. And there are new types of job opportunities that we can do in that. So, and the other thing as well that we must realize is we must naming our own models and create an African framework. And we must build a knowledge base that is not just science fiction, that basically supports agriculture innovation more than just pilot projects, into real design thinking, micro ecosystem in micro communities for product and innovation. And agriculture is a science of commodity. So value chains equals to job and ecosystem chains. So which means we can create new value chains for new jobs, and we have to think beyond the current processes in which we run. And some of the opportunities that we see is an agripreneur, which we already know, but we've also redesigned agri-influencers, where we use the digital landscape to redesign how agriculture is felt and visualized, where we have AI soil testers, and we also have youth harvesters and youth drone mappers. And we create, facility officers based on agricultural data ecosystems, and documentation officers based on digital documentation networks, and also agri-land owners for youths who are now maximizing the opportunity of agriculture. Just the same way other jobs have changed in other sectors, we also have to look at the changing dynamic of the opportunity of the youth creation in the agriculture ecosystem as well. And for you, as you continue this journey, leadership means seeing the invisible job behind every crop. And the digital age helps us to connect this. The AI infrastructure helps us to understand it, and connecting the physical and the digital and our ecosystem helps us to design and extract this opportunity. And once we're able to do this, it will leave us in a much better digital intelligence age of creative thinking and bold leadership in agriculture. We do not need miracles in Africa for our agricultural landscape. We need new mechanisms. Let us dignify agriculture. Let us mobilize the youth and agriculture experts, and let us build job ecosystems around agriculture digital age and around every crop. And let us also connect the existing network of our older generation into an ecosystem driven by our youth to create microeconomies. And let us connect disaster risk in climate and science with AI and agriculture. Let us stop separating the digital and the physical world, because they live simultaneously together. And more importantly, let us lead with consistency and not convenience. So as I end, I really hope that as we look at the digital age of harnessing jobs in agriculture, we look at every youth see agriculture as a canvas for wealth creation. We look at villages and micro communities at agricultural labs that we can create new learning processes and redesign jobs. And we look at the science behind our agriculture creation. And every farmer is ensured where we drive youth into supporting the data collection and creating new jobs. And we can be proud to say that as agriculture ecosystem feeds our country, our young people are also able to build futures, build jobs, and create wealth in agriculture. Let us lead, not by telling, but by building every single day. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, John. That was a very, very, very inspiring. I don't know how you're feeling on the other side, dear delegates. I am certainly very inspired. And it's one of the moments where I have sat and there's been a lot of conversation around how do you create job employment in the digital age? So many practical examples. I would encourage the delegates, if you have questions, please start popping them into the chat. We'll get an opportunity to get some questions answered. Let's interact with this very rich content. For myself, I think one of the things that I'm taking away is that creativity in agriculture should not be an incident, but it should not be an incident, and but it should be a strategy. So we need to all start thinking as leaders how we are going to get into that space. But in order to create that momentum, and before we get into the question sessions, as you're thinking about your questions and putting them in the chat, I would like to get into a structured conversation with some other key experts so that we will then get to answer the questions together. So I have a panel of other experts as well in the digital space that I would like to introduce. And then once we have introduced them, we will get quickly into a conversation that will frame the next 2 days that we'll be having. So to join us today in this panel is Florence Kariuki. Florence is a seasoned agriculture food systems leader with over 17 years of experience across agriculture and climate change. She has worked with banks, development organizations, and climate-focused funds to drive inclusive and sustainable solutions for smallholder farmers and rural communities. She has held different leadership roles at Equity Foundation, SNB, and Equity Bank, among others. She has led transformation programs across access to finance, climate resilience, agribusiness development, and is very keen on digital and financial inclusion. She currently serves as the partnership lead for Community Pass at MasterCard. Also joining us for this conversation is Valentine Mwangi. And Valentine Mwangi is an experienced educator and curriculum leader. He currently serves as the head of curriculum at the Moringa School, where he leads the design and development of industry-relevant technical programs in artificial intelligence, software engineering, and data science. And over the past 5 years, he has taught more than 40,000 learners across 170 countries, delivering impactful learning experiences in both business to customer and business to business content, online and also in person. He will be here to share his information in his experience in data skills, and he's keen on peer learning and collaboration. And with his deep experience in technical education, curriculum development, and learner engagement, Valentine is helping to shape the future of data and learning across the continent. So, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, there is some deep expertise around data, digital, and agriculture that is here in the room, and we will get an opportunity to engage with that. I encourage you to please put your questions in the chat. We'll get an opportunity to have this wonderful panel respond to some of your questions. So to John, as you're aware, this whole forum is around leadership, and we've got a set of leaders that are within the room that would like to understand at what point or how do they plug in. So what would you say is the kind of leadership that is needed to scale youth employment in agriculture through digital innovation, and what specific systemic shifts are required to make this work for the future? John.
Sorry, please repeat the question again. I missed the last part.
So in this room, we have leaders and they are looking for how they can plug in to make this work. So what kind of leadership is needed to scale youth employment in agriculture through digital innovation? And what systemic shifts will be required to make this work for Africa in the future?
I think it's a critical opportunity, and for leaders, especially leaders here today, first thing is a shift in critical thinking, because understanding that digital is not separate from physical. They live in the same world, and for so many years we kind of looking at digital agriculture and physical agriculture as two separate entities, but they are the same because it affects the same one person. It creates job out of the physical into the digital, because at the end we still have to connect back to the physical. That's where the agriculture happens. The digital is a support infrastructure that drives the physical, and then the ecosystem is the rest. So pretty much one of the things that we have to do is rethink where the digital world is, like other sectors have done successfully. How do we bring the digital agriculture into those places and take the physical and take that digital back into the physical for young people? And I'll give you a case and example. Doing an agriculture project with one of the ecosystem partners and in one of the French-speaking African countries. And just by reformatting how we see the extension workers and rethinking the opportunity that exists, it wasn't just about training extension workers. The goal was train them to what purpose? And what is the opportunity of what they are going to be doing based on the extension, and how do you rebrand them? So we said, okay, why don't we call them, data service expert? Because what they are doing is providing data for farmers to use that data for better intelligence. But the data that they're collecting is actually an opportunity to create new job opportunities for them, but also to create better wealth or better ecosystems for them. Then we found another partner who would actually buy off those data. So all of a sudden, we need one more person. And then we started building a function around. So this type of rethinking, it becomes predominant that we have to change. We created a project on Instagram for agriculture. And I know, for me, it's finding where we meet these young people who are extremely creative and bringing them into this network to also support the development of jobs themselves. And just by allowing us to go to that place, which most people thought was impossible, we were able to create a project with almost 10 young people who became farmers without knowing that they were farmers, and actually grew products and created a pipeline, all in the process of thinking they were content creators. So the reshaping of critical thinking for job creation from a lot of what we do also exists so leadership today has to be about unlearning, relearning, and critical thinking, and where digital and things like artificial intelligence hold the power, but the network of the ecosystem as well. So the siloed operation is a critical problem that we have in agriculture development for job creation.
Thank you very much, John. The rethinking, the relooking at the strategies that we have. Content creation is what young people like to do. So how do we rethink and put that there? And I think one of the things you mentioned about, youth becoming AI influencers, driving regenerative agriculture on TikTok. I think that sounds a lot more interesting. And if it speaks like that, we're definitely going to be having a lot more people driving into that space. Valentine, in this forum, we will be discussing the future of work and strategies in building a digital savvy agriculture workforce. And given your pivotal role in advancing AI education and empowering professionals through AI, how do you see data-driven digital agriculture transforming African food systems? Valentine.
Right, thank you. So I think based on our interactions with industry players, there has been a sort of a pattern where we look at the direction at which data-driven digital agriculture is taking, and the first one being precision agronomy. So this would involve a strategy where A lot is happening around getting data about climate, about the environment, in an effort to be able to understand when exactly should, for instance, farmers be able to plant, when should farmers be able to use fertilizer in order to optimize the yields at the very end. So that's one particular direction. So precision agronomy, as well as real-time advisory. So providing information as well as services to farmers to be able to make informed decisions. And there are a few players within Africa, even Kenya, that are providing services, providing tools to be able to do that. There's Farmer AI, which provides tailored advice on weather, as well as fertilizer timing. There's also one that's called Virtual Agronomist, which provides information to farmers on how they can be able to diagnose nutritional deficiencies within crops. And I think also in Malawi, there's also a solution provided by Ulagizi, and they provide a chatbot to enable farmers be able to, take care of the crops. So they have a chatbot that farmers can be able to interact with. So I guess based on players that we have been able to interact with, that's one particular direction. The other direction is on the finance side, where you have solutions provided, again, to various stakeholders in relation to agriculture that provide either finance. They also collect data in relation to finance that enable either farmers probably to get loans, or either other stakeholders be able to provide finance to be able to assist farmers in getting what they need to get in the market in an optimal way. There's also Trigger Foods. I guess that's also part of those solutions that they do provide in relation to the finance aspect. On the data aspect, there are many data platforms, but organizations are also looking towards using the data that's already collected in an effort to, again, make decisions. I guess there's Carlo, which does also provide a way of providing oversight, providing support to just farmers, again, on weather updates, but now on the data side. So I guess in terms of data-driven agriculture, a lot is happening with not only just startups, but also bigger established organizations providing solutions that, again, provide farmers with timely information, financial services, and also market access.
Thank you very much, Valentine. Ladies and gentlemen, as you can hear, in countries like Kenya, the Agriculture Research Institution is using data-driven solutions to provide information on several aspects around crop husbandry and several other things. We've seen there are other examples in finance and others. I encourage you to keep adding your questions, direct them to Valentine or Florence, and we'll be able to answer them as we continue. So Florence, with your extensive leadership experience in agriculture finance and digital inclusion, which we will be diving into in the coming session, you've seen firsthand how powerful digital tools can be for smallholder farmers. Yet many digital agriculture solutions still stall at the pilot phase. So what structural and systemic barriers do you believe are keeping these innovations from scaling in Africa? Florence.
Thank you, Brenda, and greetings to all Color leaders. I'm happy to speak to you as an alumni of the Color leadership, and I want to congratulate you all. So the systemic barriers or limitations that I could mention, there are several, but the ones that I can highlight, one is the limited or lack of digital infrastructure. when we are dealing with smallholder farmers, we are dealing with a population that is primarily in the rural areas, and we know the challenges that come with that. We can attest that all of us are able to use our digital tools, for example, our phones, because of the connectivity and the speed of internet, for example, that we enjoy. But when you go to the rural areas, that is not always the case. So you find that there is limitation in connectivity. And so in as much as you would want to have the smallholder farmers, for example, use the platforms that have been created for them, that is already a limitation. The other thing that concerns the digital infrastructure and usage and adoption is, for example, electricity. I know a lot of governments have done a lot of work in ensuring that there is last mile connectivity for electricity, and we have all the solutions that come with the solarization. But again, there is a limitation. I know all of us in this call can attest that there are moments you will call back home, but you cannot access the person you're calling because either they have taken their phone to be charged somewhere. So you can imagine if that is the digital tool that you are looking to pass information, then how is that information getting passed? I was running a program and we are meant to pass information to farmers through radio. And we realized that farmers also picked particular times when they can sit down and listen to this information or training. Most of the time they picked very early in the morning or late in the evening when they are settled. So all these things come to play. Again, we look at the tools themselves. Most of the farmers will either use a feature phone and not a smartphone. So depending on how we want to pass this information or how we want to use the digital agriculture knowledge and tools that we have to consider this. The second thing I would want to identify is digital literacy. You need, and we need as leaders, to continuously do a lot of digital literacy to smallholder farmers. One, there is a knowledge gap. Second, there's skepticism. Having come from a financial background, we know how there's a lot of social engineering that happens. And so because of the many incidences that target this particular population, then you realize that there's a lot of skepticism. Even if you're trying to send a message, for example, weather message, for example, that you should update every so often, they either do not get to read or they do not get to open because they do not know the source the source where it's coming from. So a lot of information and digital literacy has to happen so that they know they usually expect this kind of content, this kind of information from this kind of provider, and that it is legit and they can trust it. So also a lot of trust issues so that we can drive adoption and usability. The third I can mention is scalable and sustainable models. Now, as you have pointed out, Brenda, we have solutions that are not going out of the pilot phase. Why could this be the case? Number one, a lot of these solutions are donor funded. And they are either donor funded to do the pilot or the proof of concept, but there lacks investment to take them to scale or to commercialization. So what ideally would happen is the pilot would happen, it would happen with the right control group, and so it will work. Let's say it's farmers in let's say Mwea. So the pilot will work, but the moment we want to scale that solution to the same rice farmers in Kisumu, for example, in Kenya, which is another rice growing region, you find that it's not everything that is standard. And so that pilot that worked lacked investment to make it scalable into other parts of the country, into other value chains, or even to have other ecosystem players work on it. We know that the agriculture value chain has many players. We know that there are many value chains. And so to get something that is standardized is almost a challenge, and it's very difficult. And even the weather, the environmental and agroecological zones are not the same. So trying to get one system that works for all then becomes a challenge for scale and for sustainability. The fourth thing I would want to mention is the last mile distribution and support. So if you have a young person or you have an organization that is innovating, most likely they are innovating from a town setup, but they would need that technology to be used in the last mile. They will need to have almost a 24-hour contact center or support system for the farmers. One of the things I have found is, for example, you introduce a platform, maybe it's a payment system or whatever it is. The minute it doesn't work, you do not get the feedback. So it's you from your side that you'll be wondering, how come I'm not getting the data? How come I'm not getting updates? But you realize the minute it did not work, they didn't come back. For example, if it's a farmer cooperative, it didn't come back to say that we're experiencing this challenge. They're either waiting for you to ask why they are not using, and that's when they tell you, we encountered this and this and we stopped using it, and fall back maybe to their manual systems or whatever they are used to. So the need for that last mile support, which in itself is a challenge because there is cost that is attributed to it. And if you're talking young people, if you're talking startups, then they may lack the investment you're talking about to go to the last mile. The last I would want to mention at this point is the fragmented ecosystem. You see government has a platform, another startup has a platform, but they are not speaking to each other. All these are siloed innovations. And we are all going to the same kind of farmers. This brings a lot of confusion. It brings a lot of duplication, and this duplication cannot be scaled. So how do we work together, or how do we create systems that can be interoperable and can leverage on each other? And my hope is that we leaders who are here and innovating then can collaborate so that whatever small things we are doing, once they are put together, they can create solutions for the ecosystem and they can be scaled. I will stop there.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Florence. Leaders, as you're here, I think Florence has provided a very good background of where we could start. As innovators, I know we've got youthful leaders in this space, we've got seasoned leaders, and all of you are looking at how to make a mark. You applied that you wanted to make a mark. And I think Florence has summarized for us some of the areas that you could work on, or some of the challenges for why this digital is not getting to all the spaces. The infrastructure limitations, you could look into innovations to deal with that. You could look at innovations to deal with digital literacy issues that exist. Also developing models that are scalable and sustainable in the space. Looking at last mile distribution challenges, you could innovate around that in order to drive that sustainability. And you could also look at how to create a solution to the fragmented ecosystems that exist, the siloed interventions that are being done. So if you're thinking about how you could chime into this space, these are some of the things that you could look at. So from the audience, and we have asked that you send in some questions, we are getting some questions that are trying to understand how young people, rather from Chikondi, she would like to know how we deal with structural gender issues to ensure that young women are also part of the process so that they do not encounter cyber abuses and that they navigate through the platforms. I would pathway that question to you, Florence. Any advice on how we could ensure that structural gender issues are dealt with, especially when women are trying to access platforms?
Thank you. That's a very good question, and our solutions should also be gender sensitive. Like you have rightly put it, Chikondi, cyber abuse, for example. Why is this happening? Is it because of the lack of awareness? Is it because we have not provided a safe and secure place for example, the women? I would like to answer this with a practical example. We were onboarding farmers for a government program, and they needed to use their phones to activate so that they could get an input subsidy. number one, you realize that even owning a phone is not always is not always something that, for example, women have a privilege to. And so what I could see happening was that they would come and borrow a phone, an existing phone from one of the other farmers, and you are requiring them to put a SIM card to activate a password so that they can be enlisted in that program. What are the possible What are the possible challenges and what are the possible threats we have already in that encounter? But what were we doing as a solution provider? We could go to the field with a phone that is our own because they can trust us. So that if you have a SIM card, for example, you do not have to use another person's phone to do the activation. You can use a phone that you are sure you can trust and is safe, and your information is private. So I think it's just being aware, just providing a safe environment to do this. And like I have said, doing a lot of digital literacy. Sometimes it looks like it's not an important piece, but you can imagine the moment my information is left on your phone, for example. You can imagine if it's that cyber situation and I do not know how to go about it, and so I'm trusting somebody to take me through the process. How do we ensure there is trust? How do we ensure that the environment is conducive enough? So I think, Chikoti, that's what would be my answer. Let's be very aware of who we are dealing with and try to provide the responses that are suitable for that kind. And it's not only women. When we speak gender, it's both ways. So let's be very aware.
Thank you very much, Florence. Another question is around the fact that in Africa, and Ghana particularly, we tend to consume technology more than we develop technology. We develop technologies that meet our needs. As leaders, how do we ensure that we develop our own technologies that meet our needs, including those of small-scale farmers and those with less education and less inclined in the technological space? I would pass this to you, Valentine.
Yeah, I guess that's usually what happens, especially with newer technologies, especially in AI, where we're using technology that may not necessarily be developed in Africa, and as a result, misses out a whole lot about contextualization and a whole lot of what happens in this space. I think how we ensure that we develop such kinds of technology is to create programs, training programs, capacity building programs for not only just working professionals who have financial access to high quality programs, but also programs that that target persons who have the initiative to be able to create that change that needs to be there. For instance, be able to provide funding to spearhead foundational skills in relation maybe to data, in relation to AI for persons who probably are not necessarily within urban contexts, and also contextualize the programs themselves, taking in mind there are limitations that they could have. For instance, you could develop, yes, a foundational program or sponsor fund a foundational program, but keep in mind a foundational program, say in data, in AI, would also need to be quite basic, take into account that persons who have developed, who have are in those areas do not necessarily have what we would think as basic computer literacy skills. So really start at the very zero level of upskilling and be able to develop such. I guess a whole lot can also go towards the curriculum side when you look at what examples you're using in order to build that confidence to be able to develop problems that are faced by locals, by the problems that we face locally. So I guess that is probably what I would advise: build a lot more foundational programs and fund and provide those to probably people who may not necessarily have the ability to undertake such learning experiences, but are willing to be able to solve those problems, and support them throughout in how they can use the skills they've learned in an effort to create and build solutions that are actually solving problems.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Valentine. I see there are more questions coming in the chat. Unfortunately, we have run out of time. We will try to find a way to get the speakers to respond to some of the questions that have not been answered for now. But I think one answer that was provided by John just before he left us would answer some of the questions that was there. And he was saying, to make sure that technology works for everybody, we have to make sure that this technology is very localized. If it is localized and contextualized, then it becomes easy to meet people at the space where they are at. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been a very insightful session. I know some people are feeling some of their questions have not been answered. Unfortunately, we did not have enough time for that. We will try to make sure that we do find you answers for the ones that have not. So I will pass on to Sam Chimera to let us know where we go from here. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Brenda, for navigating that keynote and conversation. Really brilliant. And I see the comments are coming through continually. Well, just going to turn the page. So we've kicked off and we've just finished our session 1, a keynote and conversation on leadership in the digital age. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to be back at 20 minutes to the hour. I'm going to say that 2 times. 20 minutes to the hour, we'll get into session 2. 20 minutes to the top of the hour. And we'll be looking at digital agriculture and the future of work in Africa's food systems. A couple of things just to remind you, encouraging you to stay engaged, keep sharing your insights and your inputs and your question into the chat. And I want to also encourage you to engage on the platform. All of us are using the same platform, so I'm encouraging you to engage. If you noticed, there's a point system, so we're keeping track of your engagement, and whoever is excited to engage a lot more gets extra points. Right now we have some top scorers. So Sadat Abdul from Ghana right now is ranking at the top. So get in there and put some competition to it. Fred from Kenya, Demru from Ethiopia, and then Jean from Rwanda. So check that out and see how you can engage, and let's all have fun. Let's learn. Let's make this really meaningful. Thank you so much. And over to you for the break, and we'll be back 20 minutes to the top of the hour.